What's going on, guys? It's Thursday, January 26th, 2023. Another edition of the Wrestling Republic Daily Broadcast. I'm here once again with Anthony Ricciardi. It's another Throwback Thursday. How are you doing, my friend?
Doing well.
Awesome.
Looking forward to this.
Good. And we got a bunch of good topics today. It's going to be fun. This is always an easy episode, I feel like, because we get to talk Dynamite, and then we bring the throwback. Then we bring the history. So it's gonna be fun. I thought last night's Dynamite was absolutely electric, and to truly fully honor Jay the way that they did, especially at the end.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's what it should have been. The week before, obviously they weren't able to, and I don't think there would have been any way Mark would have been able to be on that show anyway. But it was a really awesome moment when they came out. I was kind of expecting them to do a 10 bell, which was a little disappointing that they didn't. But the tribute video I thought was well done. And just the roster embracing him. Seeing especially Ring of Honor people there, like Dalton Castle was there. And you knew it affected Jay Lethal as well, as close as they all were. So I thought, it was what it needed to be. And it was one of the better tribute matches that we've seen over the years. So I really enjoyed it.
Me too, and I'm sorry, I was having some technical difficulties there, so it was cutting it in and out. I don't know if you could tell there, but I caught most of that, and I totally agree. I thought it was an amazing tribute match. I mean, by the way, Jay Lethal has been a phenomenal heel on television of late, right? And I thought it was very impressive the way he was able to honor Jay's.
Yeah, I mean, it was... to have them all meet them out on the stage afterwards, I thought that was incredibly well. I really enjoyed that. That was the perfect shot to close the episode of Mark on the ramp with both tag titles. Now, who knows what they're going to do with the tag titles? One of the things that I had mentioned to you, I would love to see them him relinquish the tag titles, have a tournament at Supercard to crown the new tag champs, and have Mark go for the world title at Supercard.
I think that would be a really, really good idea. I think we're having... This is sorry, that's my fault. I don't know. It's probably me on the Wi-Fi. But I totally agree with the Mark on the world title push. I think that's absolutely necessary. I loved the way the entire locker room spilled out. And definitely I think it's one of those things where it was so emotional. It's hard to project the future, but at the same time, Mark was in such a tough spot wrestling that match, and so was Jay Lethal, and they did such a great job. I was blown away by the match.
I mean, you consider the fact that yesterday would have been Jay's birthday, which, I mean, for Mark, I don't know how he got through that match. I really don't. Just the emotion involved. I don't know how he got through it, but he did. And, Mark is, in a lot of ways, was very underrated as a talent. Jay was considered, the big, single star, and Mark was the tag guy. But, like, one of the things I thought was very interesting, Ian Riccaboni mentioned, he's like, Jay got a lot of attention, but Mark was kind of the brains behind the scenes, with booking matches and the layout of matches, which, most people wouldn't know that. So I thought that was a really nice thing for them to bring up.
I thought that was one of the cooler moments of last night. Was Ian Riccaboni brought that up during the match on commentary. He mentioned that Mark was the strategist of the two, and that was one of my favorite spots of the whole match. And I do think we're back on track with the.
Yeah, you look good.
By the way, we're good. We're good.
Yeah,
so okay, deep breath. We're back on track, guys. I did jinx it, by the way. You called this early in the episode.
Oh well, yeah.
I'm totally kidding, but at the same time, yes, I love that was mentioned, and the way they did the redneck kung fu spots, which I've always loved, and honoring. I mean, there were so many Jay Briscoe spots in that, but also Mark shined in his individual talent, shined through, and it was so cool to see that. I think Jay Lethal deserves a ton of credit.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like Lethal, if you look at like the year he had, he's been involved in a lot of these high profile. He was in Flair's last match. He was in Steamboat's. I think he was in Steamboat's match too.
I believe so.
And now Mark, he's been in a lot of these high profile, high emotion situations. In the past, year, and he's always been that dependable guy that you can have a decent match with, and he's always been really good at that. So it made complete sense. Jay's probably biggest rival as a single star going against his brother. I mean, it made the most sense. So yeah, I thought that was great. I really enjoyed that. It was a great moment for fans. It really was.
Definitely. And to your point, like, I think that's a testament to not just like Jay Lethal's talent, right? But his ability to work in any situation and the level of respect for him in the locker room. I think to continually get asked to work those type of spots is really it goes to show you the respect his peers have for him. And I think
even legends, because
right.
Flair worked with him briefly in TNA. I don't know. I don't really think Steamboat really worked with him. I mean, I know Steamboat made appearances in TNA, made appearances in Ring of Honor. But I mean, I don't think they ever really worked together on a consistent basis. But the fact that his name kept coming up as the guy, and I mean, he really made the most sense. If you're going to do a Jay Briscoe tribute match, it makes sense that he's the guy.
I mean, maybe if Adam Cole's available, maybe, but that'd be the only. I mean, even then, it doesn't make as much sense.
I think Jay and I think both Jays had a bigger feud together than Adam Cole with it. There are several people on that roster, that could really flesh out a tribute show, because you think about it, he worked with everybody during the entire run of Ring of Honor. He's a day one guy. Like him and his brother worked with literally everybody that went in that company for the past 20 years. So yeah, it made complete sense to do what they did. I have not had the opportunity to watch the 3-hour show that apparently they did for him. I didn't think it was that spectacular of a card, but I'm definitely going to check out the show. But I would think Supercard's probably going to be a potential other tribute show. I would assume it would be, but I don't know. I mean, I didn't expect the other thing to be 3 hours, which I'm not. I can't imagine that's just all new matches. I would think that's probably sliced in like classic J matches. Because I mean, I didn't think that card was. I don't think that card's 3 hours.
You would think. Think.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I have not watched it yet, but I can't imagine, because it wasn't that long of a card.
No.
So so
they didn't have a lot of time to make it either.
No, because they had to tape it between Rampage and Dynamite, and what was it, 5-6 matches?
Yeah, I believe so. 5 or 6. I'm not 100% sure on that.
Yeah, I don't. So I'm thinking it's probably going to be either sliced in matches or maybe like we've seen them do over the years, people talking about Jay in between in the mix of the matches, which makes sense. I mean, there's plenty of people that they have
It was
under contract to make it work.
How many, Kobe? One more time.
It was 10.
10?
Oh, really?
Whoa!
All right, well, I didn't think it was that many.
Talk about a misread. That's on me.
It was 10 including past matches.
Oh,
okay. So it is past matches.
They put a couple of old. Yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
2 questions, 1 answer. Well played, producer Kobe. Well played. 2 questions, 1 answer right there. It was 10 matches, including past matches. Probably
makes sense.
I'm going to take
and
hang on. Shot in the dark here, Anthony.
Cool.
5 or 6 live matches. I'm kidding. I'm just saying.
3 past matches, 7 tapes.
Dang
okay, so
it.
we're close.
We missed it again.
Yeah, well.
You missed it again. Oh, that's great.
I probably one of those matches is probably Lethal against Briscoe. I would assume that when they did the title unification, I would assume that's one of the matches.
Yeah.
Or it should be.
You would think. I mean.
Should be. It's not.
Ooh. Well, either way, we'll have to wait and see it. No spoilers either, Kobe. So don't you come back on right here and start telling us what it actually is.
Well, they already aired it.
And no more, it's not.
I know, but we didn't watch it. It's 3 hours.
We didn't watch it yet. Don't spoil
either.
it for us. We don't do spoilers for the audience, but we also don't do spoilers for our hosts.
I can't watch it tonight. I got Impact at 8.
We have other things. No, watch it in the morning.
Yeah.
Maybe. Probably in the afternoon.
Yeah, sometime tomorrow. I'll try.
Probably sometime tomorrow. We could jump on and watch it together.
Yeah.
Someday when we figure out watch-alongs, guys, we'll be there.
Yeah, we need to get on that.
But yeah, so either way, I think Dynamite as a whole last night was great. Only other thing I really, really wanted to cover from it was your thoughts on the MJF, Danielson, Cage situation. I thought Danielson Cage was excellent myself. The match was really good, bell to bell. I even thought it was my favorite spot before we even fully get going was the shoulder spot into the ring post. That was awesome. Like the way he did it with the chair.
I mean, that's the thing. Like Brian Cage is one of those performers that if he's in the ring with the right talent, he can have an unbelievable match. I don't know whether or not he's going to re-sign with AEW because there's talk that his contract's up soon. It was a phenomenal showcase match for him, I think. I am very interested in them bringing in Thatcher next week for Danielson because Thatcher's one of those wrestlers that look, when you look at him, it's like almost like he's taken out of his time period. Like he doesn't really look like he belongs in 2023 wrestling. It looks like he belonged with Fez and people like that from back then.
He's a catch wrestler for sure, right?
Yeah, I mean he's very much he's completely different than everybody else now because he has a very old school style, which I mean I really enjoyed his work in Evolve. He had a phenomenal feud with Drew Gulak, and his fight pit match with Riddle I think was probably his best high profile match.
Only one I would even argue against that, and I wouldn't call it as high profile, but there's a Progress triple threat match between him, Riddle, and Walter Gunther.
Yeah.
Where it's one of my favorites, and I watched it with our producer Kobe for the first time myself. And I was just tickled because they went about 15 minutes and you never see that in a triple threat match without anyone leaving the ring. It was so cool to me. I was just fascinated by that. His technical acumen is amazing. And in Bloodsport, he's fascinating.
I mean, the one match he had with Gulak, and I forget what the exact name of it was, but like it had no ring post. They were wrestling on the bare ring. They were hitting those boards. Yeah. I mean, it's one of the most violent matches that I've seen. And there was no blood involved. It was just them beating the living daylights out of one another and landing on the exposed boards of the ring. And it's one of those evolved matches that probably not a lot of people saw. I mean, it's not on the network, but that's really a match that really Thatcher really caught my eye in that, and same thing with Gulak. But it was such a well done match.
So, by the way, the only other thing I would say is beyond this one-off, do you think Thatcher has a future in AEW, or do you think this is a one-off?
I mean, the problem is this. AEW has a lot of talent, and they're signing a lot of people. Could they sign him too? Possibly, but realistically, they have more talent than they probably need as a whole.
100%. And not to flip it.
A lot of that talent you're not really seeing. Like, it scrolls across the bottom, Dark and Elevation. I will be perfectly honest. I've never watched Dark. I've never watched Elevation. And they're having a lot of matches. And I know I'm not in the minority there. A lot of people don't watch. And it's a shame because a lot of their talent appears on the YouTube shows. And most people just don't care. Unfortunately, there's not enough of an interest for me as a fan to go and I need to watch this. Now, I mean, if I hear that it's a great match took place on Dark or Elevation, I will go back and I will, if I have a chance, and check it out. But for the most part, I've yet to hear of anybody go, "Oh, you have to see this match on Dark."
Like this card.
Yeah. I mean, it's, could they sign him? Yeah. Realistically, I don't know what his ceiling would be in AEW. I think he's probably better off in Japan because of his style. I think is more popular there as opposed to being in the States. I mean, it could be either way. I mean, I think he's from San Francisco. I think he's from.
I believe he's a Bay Area guy.
I think he's a Bay Area guy.
But he spent so much time in Europe, in the UK, and then he also is. I know he's a training partner of Josh Barnett.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things too, because I know he's American, but it's kind of funny because you always think he's European because he's been there so long, and you're like, oh, that's right. No, he's American. He's not European.
My two thoughts on it were when I saw him advertised, I was like, he would be amazing to work with some of like the very green dark and dark elevation talent.
Mm-hmm.
Just for the technical acumen and all of that, and that type of, not that he doesn't have the charisma because I do actually think he does have charisma to be bigger than he's been billed, but his age is a bit of an issue. Cannot wait to see him wrestle Danielson. But my other thought was, man, this seems like a month and a half late because doesn't he make more sense in a Blackpool Combat Club than anything else? And I don't know what is going on with that, but at the same time, he would have been a great. You could tag him with Yuta.
To me, I think I would have preferred him over Yuta in that group because
I think you have him bring Yuta along inside of the group.
Well, I think you would do it now, but the only problem with the Combat Club really was it was a stable, but not a stable at the same time. And this was one of the things we had conversations about where they would be in feuds, but their other teammates would not come out to help them. It was the weirdest stable that I think I've ever seen where it's they're a group, but they're not a group. They don't get involved with each other's stuff. And it's well, isn't that the point of having somebody have your back? What's the point of this group if they're not going to come out to help each other? So it was very strange, but yeah, he would fit. I'm sure Regal was heavily involved in bringing him in to NXT the first time around, I would assume.
No doubt.
I am a little surprised that he didn't come back in the group of people that the Hunter brought back. Would they turn around and sign him now before he signs with AEW longer term if he's not already signed? Maybe. But again, I don't because they brought Dexter in,
right?
And I know there was an age issue with him. I don't know which one's younger or older between him and Thatcher.
I think about the same age.
I would assume they'd probably be around the same age. That would be my guess, but I don't know that for certain. But Thatcher's one of those guys that I would love to see him against Mox, honestly, because I think that would be a knockdown, drag out. Absolutely.
Not have a blood sport match? Or was that Mox? Tom Lawler. Might have been Mox and Lawler.
Yeah, it might have been. But it would make sense because I think those two would have a really good style working with one another. Like other than Danielson, like that would be the guy I would have him up against. But I don't really know if there's anybody else in AEW that I would really want to see Thatcher face, to be honest.
Yeah.
Maybe Claudio.
Claudio or Miro? Miro could be a slugfest.
Even Miro, though, like they're really not doing nothing with him. So it's like
I know, but I meant more fantasy booking.
Oh no. Like match wise, I think it could be an absolute brawl.
Or Joe is the other one I would say.
Oh, Joe, yeah. Joe's another one that they could absolutely do something.
And I almost put Joe. I want. I wish Miro I think is a phenomenal talent. I want either Miro and Joe to work together somehow, or Miro to be kind of the next Joe, because stylistically, with the pump kicks and the stiff strikes, the match he had with Eddie Kingston a couple years ago are amazing. There we go, 39, same age.
Yeah, that's what we said.
Thank you, Kobe.
But that's the thing. Like Miro's another one of those ones that like you kind of feel like, unfortunately, like he's reached his ceiling. And it happened in both WWE and it's happened in AEW. It's like, well, they can't both be having creative problems booking this guy. And it's a shame because I think he is a really good talent, but for whatever reason in both companies, he hit like a limit and they just don't know what to do with him at that point.
Yeah. I don't understand though. He looked great at All Out against Kingston.
Oh, absolutely.
Defending the title. And then even, yes, I understand he lost it to Darby and stuff, but the Redeemer gimmick was so great. And then they kind of stalled that push, him feuding with the House of Black.
I mean, it was very weird. Like he did the weird promo in the dark room and then was it Julie Hart came up to like, it was very weird. Yeah. Like it was not a good promo because it's like, if he's in a secluded place, how the hell did she find him? Like it was very weird. And they've done nothing with it since. I think they say they had creative differences or something. That's why he's not there. Isn't that the line?
To Meltzer, that's what the rumor was. Is like
either way, he's not there. So there's got to be creative.
Leading up to full year, they had like creative meetings, and it ended up going nowhere.
Yeah,
and that's like that's based off of Fightful as well. But
no, yeah.
Creative differences based on the pitches, and I mean, you can interpolate saying they probably wanted him to lose to someone that he didn't want to lose to. I don't know. That'd be my guess.
I mean, anything's possible with that stuff. I mean, I would love to see him back. I don't know how long of his contract is. I will be right back.
No worries. He's got a key delivery right now of Danhausen merchandise here, and we obviously co-host the show Sold Separately, which is the collectible show that's going to be released here on the Wrestling Republic Network soon. So it's key that he gets this. Well, it's key anyway, but you get the point. Either way, when Anthony gets back here in a second, we're going to cover basically we're going to pivot from Dynamite and cover some of our favorite Royal Rumble moments all time.
Is he doing a live unboxing?
I mean,
I could in theory, but you give your Rumble
do the Rumble thing. We're just going to go, we're not ranking them or anything. We're just going to go Rumble memories. We got the Rumble on Saturday. at the end, we'll probably give our picks for the Rumble. But Anthony, what would you say your favorite? Not favorite, but give me a Rumble memory that you've thought of this week. Rumble week.
There was the one, I believe it's 2007, I think it is. It's when it came down to Undertaker and Shawn Michaels, and it was like the match within the Rumble. That's probably one of my all-time favorites. One that I really enjoyed, and it's probably not on a lot of people's list, the 1999 one, which was the one that Vince actually won.
I was at that Rumble.
Yeah, I mean, it
stole my moment.
I stole your moment. But like one of the great things with that, and again, it was an insane time period where like Austin got taken out by the corporation, like in the men's room, like during the match, and was sent to the hospital during the Rumble, and somehow returned in an ambulance to come down to the final two with him and Vince.
All at the time, the Arrowhead Pond.
Yes.
Now the Honda Center. The funniest part is the undercard of that Rumble had that's the I Quit Mankind
Yes.
Rock
Which
Rumble
is such a brutal match to watch back now, knowing concussions and Rock hitting Foley more times than he was supposed to with unprotected chair shots. It's a very hard match to watch back now.
And that reminds me, speaking of undercard ones, you're 100% spot on, but was it 07 or 08 undercard of the Rumble, Umaga Cena Last Man Standing, which I still maintain is one of the best Last Man Standing matches of all time.
Oh, that is a phenomenal one.
Is that 07 or 08? I can't remember. Might be 06.
I want no.
06 seems early.
I'm not sure.
Either way.
I'm sure the producer could pull it up.
Yeah.
But
08, Kobe, thank you.
Yes. One of the ones I went to
07. It's 07.
One of the ones that I went to, which is, and I refer to it as the Forgotten Rumble, because it was in 04. It was in Philly, and it's the year Benoit won at number one, which he became the second man besides Shawn Michaels to do it.
Right.
But because of what happened, it's like the Forgotten Rumble. Like they don't acknowledge it. Like when they do the countdown every year of going, the Rumble by the numbers. Only two men have won the Royal Rumble at number one. One of them was Shawn Michaels. They made no match. But one of the forgotten matches of that, unfortunately, because of what happened, is it's a last man standing of Shawn Michaels and Triple H, which is actually one of the really good matches.
Outstanding match.
Yes. So unfortunately, it's like the Forgotten Rumble because of the Benoit thing, which I understand. I understand.
Completely
why.
Makes sense.
But I always refer to it as the Forgotten Rumble.
It's a little bit like WrestleMania 20.
Yes.
Same thing.
I mean,
right?
and when you think about it, like that was such a phenomenal moment of Eddie and Benoit hugging each other because of their history. But again, it's one of those moments that like it's weird looking at it now.
Hard to look at.
I mean, Eddie is still beloved, and I know this comes up every year. People go, "Oh, Benoit, the Hall of Fame." He's never going in the Hall of Fame. Let's be real. That's never going to happen. It would be a PR nightmare. He, talent-wise, if you could separate the two, which I don't really think you can, I think it's very difficult to separate the two now. It's almost, and I know I bring up O.J. Simpson.
Yeah.
Technically, O.J. went in before all that, and technically he wasn't convicted. So it's kind of one of those weird situations, but he's never going in. One of the other from a few years ago, the Brock Lesnar year, which was like the tale of two Rumbles, where he was just decimating everybody, and you're like, are they really going to have him like literally go through everybody?
And then you have Drew.
Yes.
And then Edge.
Oh, the Edge return may be, in my opinion, the greatest Rumble return of all time? Because, I mean, there was rumors of, Edge might be getting cleared. And I remember when there was talk of that, I'm going, why? Like, he has nothing left to prove. Why would he risk it with his neck? Now, granted, we know that, he was healthy enough to do it, but I'm thinking, when the initial talk was being mentioned, we didn't know whether or not his neck was healthy enough, or he was just coming back for one last hurrah. Like, we didn't know.
When he gave that first spear, it was like, that's when you knew too. The entrance was so emotional, but when he delivered the first
camera
spear,
missed.
The camera missed, but you knew it by the reaction of the crowd.
Like, it was one of the rare missteps from WWE.
For sure. Not to play devil's in production, but not to play devil's advocate, Anthony. The only one I can think of that could compete is Cena at the Garden was pretty wild.
Oh yeah, again, that's another
from
one
a
that
pop
no one
perspective
was that was phenomenal last year, and not to disrespect any of the women's wrestlers, and we had talked about this last week. The Mickie James return, coming in with her Impact music with the Impact Women's title was one of the most unbelievable moments. Shinsuke won it in 2018, which was one of those ones, and a lot of people forget the last person he eliminated was Roman. It came down to him and Roman.
For sure.
And I remember being in the crowd and people are going, oh, don't tell me they're going to have Roman win again in Philly, like in the Rumble, because he won in 15, I think.
Oh, he's going to get booed.
And Nakamura won. We're like, oh, we're getting Nakamura AJ at Mania. That's where we're going with this. So there have been, Austin's won it 3 times. The only person to win it three times.
Maybe my favorite Rumble was 97 because I had it on VHS. It was in San Antonio. Main event was Michaels versus Psycho Sid. And that Rumble that's the Austin when he checks his fictional watch standing up on the turnbuckle.
It's an iconic moment.
It's one of my favorite Rumbles ever. Mil Mascaras eliminated himself because he refused to put anybody else over. So the way that they sorted it was they basically had him do like one of the, like a classic suicide dive, classic tope, and he just eliminated himself. He just called it a day. He went in for like 10 minutes and they just said, you know what? That's it.
One of the greatest, and the voice still goes through my head, the Santino Marella elimination, which was the quickest. When he goes, I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. Such a good quote.
Yeah. Such a good quote. And Kane, you can't. Oh, the Danhausen looks beautiful.
Yeah. And
great figure.
And he comes with the bonus money pack.
Oh no. Isn't that isn't that a bag of teeth?
Yeah, there's a thing of teeth. There's money and there's the sack.
That's all time. Shout out Danhausen.
Which was only available during the initial pre-order, which a portion of the proceeds went to him and his broken leg at the time.
Nicely done.
So
that's a great figure. That's a great figure. But by the way, talking about the Rumble, we can't go without mentioning Kane. Kane might be the best Rumble competitor to never win one.
I believe he has the most eliminations. I think either that or
all time. I believe it's him. I think his single Rumble elimination record is
Strowman beat it recently.
I thought it was Brock that beat it. I thought Brock beat it.
It could have been Brock
in the Brock domination one.
Yeah, because Brock's been in a few Rumbles, so you figure. I think Kane or Dolph have the most Rumble appearances.
That sounds correct. Okay, also underrated Rumble 92, the Flair Rumble.
The tear in my eye. Yeah, that's
so good. Good.
I mean, yeah, that's definitely up there as one. I mean, I think a lot of people call that the greatest Rumble.
Yeah, I think that's a bit of a reach.
No, yeah. I mean, there's the year Ray won.
Braun and Brock
which was a tribute to Eddie. Him winning. Probably one of the most controversial ones was the year that people wanted Bryan in it. and
Oh
Ray came out at number 30.
Or 15, 14?
I think it was 15 because that was I think Roman won.
Kane, 46 total.
Yeah.
So Kane is the all-time leader with 46 total eliminations, and then for single Rumble, Braun and Brock are tied with 13. Charlotte had 15 on the women's side.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, producer Kobe. Sorry to interrupt you there, Anthony, but we're getting good stats here.
No, I know.
Kane's highest single Rumble is 11.
Yeah.
So I mean,
that one of the other Rumble matches, which was not necessarily the Rumble, is the infamous casket match with Shawn and Taker.
Right.
Which is the match that Shawn really injures his back, and he somehow made it through WrestleMania 14 to drop the title to Austin. But obviously there was a lot of issues there because people didn't know if Shawn would be able to wrestle that match. But that casket is often forgotten. And I mean, it was a hell of a match. And one of the things that's forgotten is, Shawn won the casket because Kane came in, chokeslam Taker into the casket, and set the casket on fire, which led to the WrestleMania 14 legendary match with Taker and Kane.
When Pete Rose got tombstoned.
Yeah, which when you look at it, it was a really odd choice to do that because it's Boston. Pete Rose is taking shots at the city of Boston. Kane, who's a heel at the time, comes out, tombstones Pete to a cheer, and then faces Taker as the heel, and Taker's the face. Like, booking wise, it really made no sense. Like, looking back on it now, it really makes no sense. But again, it was Russo booking, so it didn't. It was a pop for the crowd in Boston, and I remember that moment. It's great because Pete was getting beat up like 3 years in a row at WrestleMania.
Oh yeah, the chicken suit is one of the funniest ones.
And that was in Philly. He seriously was the San Diego Chicken the following year.
Right.
And then 16, which I believe was it in LA?
It actually might have.
And then it was Kane and Rikishi beat him up. He got a stink face for his trouble.
That's exactly right.
Yes.
Okay. So I think, can we both agree on Kane, best Rumble participant to never win?
Yeah. I mean, and he's the most dominant Royal Rumble person to never win it. And I could probably safely say Kane's never winning a Rumble. I mean, there's always a possibility he'll pop up in another one, but realistically, he's not winning a Rumble.
It's interesting. Kane, to me, did such an amazing job of towing the line between mid-card and main eventer his whole career. Like, he was always just viewed as vicious, but he was never booked in the main event scene unless they needed him. He was like the second break glass guy right after Taker. It's kind of wild if you really think about it. He was like, oh, if Taker's not available, Kane can get the, you know what I mean? It was like, well, we've got Kane.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the year Triple H returned and won it, and then he faced Jericho for the undisputed
WrestleMania 18.
Yes. That was one of those iconic moments. There've been a lot. I mean,
speaking of
everyone's copied
with the Drew Carey scene. Was that 99? That was 99. That was the one I was at.
No, I think it was I want to say it was 2000, 2001. It was either 2000 or 2001, I think.
No, yeah, you're right. No, it wasn't. Yeah, you're right. It was because he's got it's tank top Kane.
Yeah.
It's not sleeved Kane.
Yeah. What was the other I was thinking of? I had it and I lost it. But Asuka winning it in 18, becoming the first woman to win it. That was a great moment with the women's Rumble when they instituted that. I mean, there've been so many iconic moments at the Rumble. The Rumble is that special match that I love the fact that we don't know who's coming out and when. I think that's in this age where everything is spoiled. I love the fact that there's still secretness. AJ making his debut at WrestleMania at the 16th Rumble, I think 2016 Rumble, at number 3. I think that's a great moment. I think this year, I do think there's going to be a lot of surprises.
No doubt. And I mean, honestly, we were going to do predictions, but I'm like, let's save that. Let's save that. Don't you think? We've only got 5 minutes to go. Or do you want to make your predictions for this year? Do you want to do that?
I mean, it's this Saturday. I mean,
let's do it. You're right. You're right. You're right. There's not much time to save.
I have no problem being
let's
on.
Go predictor. Okay, men's and women's. Who are your two? Give me one on each side.
The women's, I really don't know.
It's wide open. I think the same thing.
I think
do women's first then.
I think the safest bet, and I'm going to go Rhea, only because I really don't know who else that they're going to put in that spot. I mean, Becky's a possibility, but I kind of feel like Becky and Bayley are probably going to face each other at Mania, is my guess. I think that's where they're going with it. So I that's the only reason why I wouldn't go Becky or Bayley on that. I think it's Rhea. Would be my guess for the women's. The men's, I mean, I want to say Cody, but I kind of feel like they're going to go Cody Seth at Mania. So I mean, my wild card pick, if it's not Cody, I'm going to go Sammy. Because I don't know who else they go with at that point either.
So my men's pick is Sammy. I'm picking Sammy, period.
Okay.
On the women's side, I'm going to take Alexa Bliss. I think Alexa Bliss is going to scare her way into winning the Rumble. And if executed properly, I'm not going to hate it. As long as it's executed well, maybe she is, normal in the beginning of the match, works a long time, and then something happens and she flips and eliminates the last 3 in a row or something like that would be a cool, and she doesn't even celebrate the victory almost. To tell that story.
Docile stare. Like
yes.
That type of deal.
I think that would be kind of a cool way, especially if they open the show with that Rumble match.
I mean, I would think I've always been a fan of, I like the bookend idea. Like, I kind of feel like you open the Rumble with the women's in this year and maybe end the show with the men's would probably be my.
Oh, yeah, Bliss has a title shot on the card. She's not even in the match. Terrible pick.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that she can't be in the match. I mean, there's been people that have done double duty, so I don't really think that's a problem.
Yeah.
There's this perception that's like, oh, well, if they have a match on the card, they're not in the Rumble. And I'm like, that's not necessarily the case. So I think you could totally do it. But
maybe Liv Morgan then as like a Sister Abigail type thing.
Yeah, but the problem with, Liv had such a horrible run as champion. Like that crowd,
but she deserves so much better. It doesn't make sense.
The crowd just didn't like it. It's a shame because it almost falls in the same category of like Hangman Page, where it's like the chases are really interesting, but carrying the title was not as appealing. Like
right.
I think that's what happened with Liv, and same thing happened with Adam. I think, and it's a shame, but it's like. There's certain performers that are better at the chase than they are carrying the title.
100%.
And I think that's what happened there. And it's a shame. Let me get your thoughts on the, it's scary that it was 12 years ago. The 1 year they did 40, which Del Rio won.
To be honest, I was not a huge fan of them doing 40.
It's funny because I remember at the time being, oh, that's awesome. Like there's 10 more entrants. But looking back on it, I prefer the traditional 30 myself. I know there was, I think there were some rumors whether or not they were going to do that this year, going the 40. I prefer the 30, and I also don't count the Saudi one as
I do not either.
I don't count that as a Royal Rumble. I know they throw it in with the numbers.
Yeah,
it's not a real Royal Rumble.
100%.
Royal Rumble a year. You can call it the Royal Rumble, and I think that might have been 50.
Okay, this is gonna crack you up. Are you like me where it just totally bugs you when people call a standard battle royal a Royal Rumble? Oh, it grinds my gears.
No, yeah.
I'm like, there's a difference.
There's two different things. The Rumble, people come out every minute and a half, which I don't even know how accurate that is, because when I was at the 1 in 18, they were coming out quicker than a minute and a half. That's a little ridiculous.
Absolutely.
But like, there's the Battle Royal is everyone, all 30 competitors or however many competitors are in there are all in at the same time. They are completely two different matches. You know, I love them both, but the specialness of the Royal Rumble is the fact that it happens once a year. Now, granted, now they do two with the men's and the women's, but also I disagree with. I heard Rhea Ripley, I think, said she wanted to be in the men's. I completely disagree with it. Like there's a reason why you have two separate ones. Like
I found this interesting. I didn't even think of this, but I was listening to Busted Open this morning.
Yes.
And Bully Ray and Tommy mentioned, and it was great. Shout out to Busted Open. It was a great show that they did this morning. But Rhea Ripley was taller than Solo Sikoa, and that image is not great. And I didn't think about that, and that made sense. So that's where I was like, you know, we've done a lot of the crossover that way.
Beth's been in both.
Yeah, but
again, that was when Beth was in the men's, and same thing with China. There was no women's Royal Rumble. Now that there is, I don't necessarily think you do a crossover. Rhea is believable, but at the same time, I wouldn't do it because then it's like, well, you're not going to put Dolph or somebody else like in the women's to attempt to win it. Like you're not going to do that. You have two separate ones. I think you keep them separate personally.
Definitely agree. I think no matter what, this is going to be a fun Rumble because a little bit because of the fact that it's so up in the air. As much as I do like the build and the logical build sometimes to all of it, I think this year's Rumble is so up in the air that either or we may see a surprise. By the way, do we know that Big E's not healthy? Do we know that Randy Orton's not healthy?
Well, I think Big E said that like he probably can't, and I don't see Big E being in it.
You never know, though. You do never know.
No, and that's the thing. Like it feels like the Rumble had a streak years ago where it was like, oh, we know Benoit's winning this year. This person's winning that year. I feel like over the past few years, we really don't know, and I love that. As a fan, I love the fact that it's not predictable who's winning it, who's going to the main event at Mania. It would make sense if Big E's I mean, you don't want to tell people if you want a surprise return. Like, I mean, so I would understand why Big E would be lying, but I don't think he is in this instance. I would love to be wrong. I would love to see Big E and it back. There are rumors of different people coming in for the Rumble outside the company, making their debut. Jay White being the main one, Switchblade, which I've always been a big fan of Jay White, and I think I would love to see him and Seth in a feud. I would love to see him and Cody in a feud. There's a lot of people on the WWE side I would love to see Jay White work with. Whether or not we see people, do we see more people from Impact? Do we see anybody from AEW showing up in the Rumble? I mean, anything's really possible with the Rumble, and especially this is Triple H's first Rumble.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a fun
which is something people need to keep in mind. There is a possibility Hunter would bring somebody in for that.
Absolutely. I think
looking forward to it.
There's almost anything can happen in this one, and like you said, it's so up in the air, and it's going to be so interesting to see what Triple H does with his first Royal Rumble. But that's all we've got for today. We're sorry we went over time because we had some technical difficulties early, but we will see you guys tomorrow a little bit earlier, and then again Saturday before the Rumble. And thank you so much for having us, and talk to everybody soon.